Welcome to the Daily Beast podcast. I'm Joanna Coles, Chief Content Officer of the Daily Beast.
And I am Samantha B., Chief Operating Officer of the Melania K. Trump Center for the Performing Arts in beautiful Washington, D.C.
Are you going to do a gig there?
Am I going to do a gig there? Absolutely not. All forthcoming invitations, I think, have been rescinded.
I think before we go anywhere else, I just need to discuss the print on your cardigan and ask, what animal is that? Is it giraffe?
Obviously, it's a very rare polyester cheetah.
Polyester cheetah. They can run faster than regular cheetahs.
They're so slippery and aerodynamic. I did remark just before we started recording that our outfits clash as hard as two outfits can clash.
They're clashing. They're making noises, actually, for people who can't hear.
We're both
in the studio. They're actually screaming at each other.
It's so cold here. We're looking into our closets and going, what can I come up with today? I need to live.
Well, I am dressed up today because I am wounded by comments which said I looked homeless because I wore a hoodie with a blazer.
With a blazer?
Yeah, and actually it was a cashmere hoodie from Bloomingdale's.
That is a classic combination I don't understand.
Yeah. What do you mean you don't understand? How could you not understand? It's the most fantastic combination.
No, I'm saying I don't understand the negativity.
Oh, then it just said I looked homeless. So, point taken.
Wow.
I'm now wearing an Etre jacket, which is smart and which I got in the sale.
Okay.
I like to get my Etre jackets because they are very expensive.
That's a very smart jacket. I took a lot of flack over the years on Full Frontal for a lot of my different jackets, and I got called Sergeant Pepper a lot of times.
Sergeant Pepper.
Once you try to do something different, everybody just goes bonkers.
They do.
Today I'm doing a lot different because I hate everything in my closet and I want to take a flamethrower and
No, don't do that. I'll come in and burrow through your closet. I'll find things in there. But we've got so much to discuss. It's just coming at us. And every week, obviously, we talk about the people and the stories that we're all obsessed with. And this week in the download, where we dive into some of the best Beast stories, we're talking to our very own CEO of the Daily Beast, Ben Sherwood, about this recent trend straight from hell, the uptick in plane crashes. And Ben is not only my partner at the Beast, he's the author of a book called The Survivors Club. Timely subject in so many ways. Are we going to survive America? Because he's going to reveal to us from his book the number one thing you can do to survive a plane crash.
Oh my God, I need to know that so badly. That plane crash in Toronto hit me very close to home.
Yeah, that was scary. And also the way it flipped upside down and then the flames poured out of the back.
I know, but I was you know what? I was like, if ever there was going to be a crash at Pearson International Airport, where from I hail, touch wood, hope it never happens again, everybody was belted in and safe and nobody was really overly injured. And so I'm very glad for that. Everybody listening to following the rules. A plane from Minneapolis going to Toronto, everybody's belted in.
Everybody's belted in.
Everybody's belted in. But I want to know.
They're doing the brace position, I'm sure. I don't mean to make light of it because actually two people were critically injured, I think.
Okay. Well, then scrap everything I just said. It's terrible.
God, you're just a thoughtless bitch.
God. You know what? But I'm so excited to talk about anything survival because I feel like I read a lot of survival things.
Of course you do.
Little handbooks. I'm always like, how do you start a fire again when you don't have any matches?
Right.
And I said in our comment thread this morning that I feel that you and I are two scrappy rats. We can survive anything.
Did I tell you about my prepper bag at the last election? I can't remember if I told you this.
We have a
2016 election. I got sort of involved in this group called the East Village Preppers. They sort of co-opted me and they were like, you must have a bag with food.
Yes.
It's coming. So they were like, you need $5,000 in singles. I mean, who even has cash anymore? And so I put this bag together. I thought, well, just in case they're right, I put this bag together. And then about 2 months ago, I found the bag. And it was full of moth-eaten rice crackers and rice cakes, and it was just horrible. And then tons of tins of tuna, which of course are perfect because I'm a huge believer in hoarding tins of tuna in case of the apocalypse.
You know what? This is why we do a podcast together because I have multiple go bags in my home.
Of course you do.
And they're honest to Christ filled with tuna.
I know. It's like it's a superpower. Having a tin of tuna is a superpower at all times.
I thought the tins were too heavy, and I didn't want to lug them for the hundreds and hundreds of miles it would take to hike to Canada. So I got little sachets.
I was going to say, I have sachets of tuna. I have tins of tuna. I have big cans of mackerel. It's just like fish, bony fish, oily fish. It's very, very good
And
for you.
I have a bone saw in case I need to kill every single person on the way to Canada.
I have a bone saw.
Yeah, I have so many weapons in it. Anyway.
So interesting. Okay, moving swiftly on. Just to let people know, we have a beast of the week. It's the unshakable, unflinching former CNN anchor turned independent media entrepreneur, Jim Acosta, who clearly has very stiff knees because he's refused to bend them.
They are locked.
They are locked. As CNN's White House correspondent, he made headlines grilling presidents, clashing with Trump, and getting his press pass temporarily revoked for asking too many inconvenient questions. And in 2021, he took over as CNN's chief domestic correspondent and anchor. But after nearly 2 decades at the network, he walked away, turning down a late-night time slot. And he's going to be here to tell us what he's doing now.
I'm so excited to speak with him. I've never spoken to him before. We've never met.
I haven't met him either. I have watched his new show.
Okay, great.
And I am curious. I really want to ask him about what it was like actually covering Biden as much as it was covering Trump.
Sure.
Because Trump, for all his faults, is ever present. Biden was never present.
Right. Well, I want to ask him what it's like when he's just casually taking an airplane somewhere and they need to do a passport check and they announce his name to the entire airport looking for him. I just wonder how many people look up and give him the evil eye. Because I was just in Florida, so I got the evil eye a lot.
We can ask him that. But first, I think we need to discuss Melania.
Oh, sure.
Will Melania be on the cover of Vogue? I was very intrigued by Amy Odell's excellent Substack, where she chronicles in myopic detail the fashion world, and in particular the comings and goings of Vogue, because she wrote a very good biography of Anna Wintour. But obviously the question on people's lips in fashion, because they're all stepping forward to dress Melania now, not all of them, but many of them, is will Melania, like Jill Biden and Michelle Obama, grace the cover of Vogue?
My guess is yes, but what does the article determine? I mean, no one can know.
Well, I think the article points to the fact that Anna Wintour was a huge fundraiser for the Democrats, and this is a problem. And she's taken Vogue very Democratic. And so if you're Melania, do you actually want to be on the cover of Vogue? She was on the cover when she got married to Donald Trump. In fact, Anna Wintour helped make Melania, as she's helped make many dubious celebrities.
Is the feud between the two of them overstated or overblown? Do you know the nature of that? Because they obviously had a falling out, but wasn't it before he became president? I don't really know much about the details of it.
I don't know the details either, but I'm just curious as to whether or not Vogue will pull itself into the center, knowing that the fashion industry is now leaning into Melania and also sort of stepping back from its somewhat superior position of we're not going to dress her. Because the truth is, she is a fabulous clothes source. I mean, you may not like what she stands for, but in terms of showing off and out, you yourself got very excited over her skinny jeans look.
Well, I like that skinny jeans. The skinny jeans and the combat
skinny jeans
boots
look was good.
But as we discussed with Isaac Mizrahi, we are in a paper doll situation.
We are.
I don't know. But I mean, my guess is yes, because I don't know. Everybody's getting pulled into this orbit in one way or another, including Amazon making that documentary.
Well, let's discuss that. Yes. I mean, I was fascinated. Piece in the Wall Street Journal, which discusses how when Jeff Bezos goes down to Mar-a-Lago to bend his knee, Melania has dinner with him and raises the subject of her documentary, which she's excited to do. And then 3 weeks later, according to the Journal, Amazon coughs up $40 million.
$40 million.
$40 million.
Oh, the level of grift is so...
Can you just give us your impression of what it would be like to be Melania? I'll be Jeff Bezos, you be Melania, and you... Hello, Melania.
Hello, Jeff. I would like to make a documentary about my life and the transition into the White House of the Trump family, not so much in the past. They're not doing anything about her life leading up to it. It's all about moving into the White House and what it's like to be in the spotlight. I mean, literally.
Okay, but you're taking me out. You're out of character now because I want to respond as Jeff Bezos.
Oh, yes.
That sounds fascinating, Melania. I like the sound of it very much. I wonder if we could, in fact, come up with a line of clothes around the documentary. We could put Amazon fashion with that. We could do some supplements for you.
Okay, big surprise, Jeff. Brett Ratner is already living next door. I will ask him.
I would love to invite Brett Ratner to, in fact, direct the documentary.
This sketch is very good.
Well, what's fascinating is Netflix and Apple, I think, refused to bid for it.
Sure.
Disney offered, and again, according to the Journal, 15 million. And Jeff came in over the top.
Just over the top.
Melania, so we'll get back to our role play. Melania, I like this idea so much. I'm going to talk to our people at Amazon Originals, and we're going to come back to you with an offer you cannot refuse.
The price is $40 million.
Oh, it's cheap.
It's cheap. Impression is getting worse over time.
Prime.
It's actually...
I think it's a special Prime.
Good God.
They should make it only available to Prime people.
It's going to be... How am I going to watch it without watching it in my own Amazon
I'm going to come
Prime?
and watch it with you. We're going to watch it together, and I'm going to bring vodka.
I will only watch a bootleg version of it. I will not watch it. I'm not going to give them my eyeballs.
I don't think you're going to be able to avoid it. I think they're going to blast it.
Of course they're going to. I can avoid anything, Joanna.
I don't think so. I think we're
yes.
going to see the Kim Jong-un school of promotion for this particular documentary.
I'm not falling for it. I'm not weak.
Well, you say that now. Well, what did you think of my impression of Jeff Bezos?
I thought it was really good.
Thank
you. It was really, really good.
Not bad at all, but not as good as yours. Okay, and then we've got the Pope getting sick.
I know. The Oscar campaign for a conclave is out of control.
And this is a campaign as good as Harvey Weinstein would do, even from a jail cell.
But I think I feel okay making that joke because he was up and doing meetings today.
Oh, he was good? Well,
Yes.
I saw he was reading the newspapers yesterday, so I thought, well, he must be feeling better.
He's rebounding.
And he said that he wants his successor to have similar values to him and be, speak for illegal immigrants as they... as the war against them heats up.
Just ask me. Ask me directly, Pope. God, I'll do it.
I found Conclave, which I quite enjoyed. 20 minutes too long, as I find everything.
I find everything to be 20 minutes.
Except
if
for a
not
podcast.
45 minutes too long.
Okay, you find it 45 minutes too long. It didn't have any women in it. They keep saying, oh, it's Stanley Tucci and Ray Fiennes and Isabella Rossellini. I'm like, Isabella Rossellini was in it for like less than 4 minutes, and everything she said was in service of the wannabe popes.
You know what I am very good at in life, and actually probably should have done this as a career if I was really looking at things? I'm very good at editing time out of movies. I'm very good at editing television shows and movies.
You could have taken a scalpel to this, I think.
I would take a scalpel to just about goddamn everything.
Excellent news.
Yes.
Can you take a scalpel to this jowly bit around here?
I can't. That's the one scalpel I can't do. Look at this. Oh, it's just like a little change purse down here.
What we should do is have facelifts together, and then we can do before and after on the podcast.
Oh, I'm sure that people will chime in with their opinions about the type of work that we both need and the fashion overhaul.
Well, we know that you use skincare from Clearance. Oops, no, that's Clarence. And then Elon Musk has had another baby since we last saw each other.
Great. Just great stuff. Great work.
13th baby.
13th baby. And didn't one of his children say that they found out about it on Reddit?
Yes, I think she said if she had a nickel for every time she found out she had a new sibling on Reddit, she would have 2 nickels.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I've had it with these people.
And then what was kind of wonderful was that a text or a Twitter exchange then surfaced with the baby mama asking someone if they could introduce her because she really wanted to have a child with Elon, which 5 years ago might have looked a better idea than it does now. Because now the child will be put to work, obviously, instantly, either in the White House or at Doge.
I feel sad for the child that was in the White House the other day because he's going to be usurped. I mean, his time in the sun is over. Now he just goes back to being a regular child.
If I were Elon, I would strap the new baby in a papoose around his chest. And that way he can stroll through the White House and everybody will be admiring of him again.
Oh my God, these people. It's too much. It's too much. It's too much.
And I also loved the fact that Donald Trump called out the teenagers, the lost boys of Doge, for wearing T-shirts and saying they might have IQs of 180, but he wished they could dress better.
Well, I approve that message. I mean, look at us right now.
Exactly.
Just knocking it out of the park.
Paisley with a little line of
I know.
Little line of gold there.
Very genteel.
It did prompt someone to say, is he the white Nick Cannon?
That's
Elon Musk.
Well,
with his various children.
Just spreading his seed as God intended.
Did God intend that? I don't think God intended that.
Not my God.
Well, at least you have a God. I'm still looking. I would say I'm still looking. Now, listen, you're back from Florida.
I am. I did a big Planned Parenthood. I did the main fundraiser for Planned Parenthood of Central and Southern Florida last week. And it was an incredible event. They raised a lot of money and I met just some of the best people and I closed out the night. I am not a person who goes to I leave parties early. Like if I go to
I'm
a
amazed
party,
we can go to a party.
Yeah, if I go to a party, the beginning part is my part and then I leave. I do a little Irish exit and it's over. And I closed that party out just talking to everybody. They were all just the most interesting people. And they are under siege there in Florida, just surrounded by really anti-abortion activists and believers. They really are truly under siege. I was fascinated to learn that in a state with a 6-week ban, the state is very present in the clinic at all times.
How do you mean?
My understanding is that they hire like retired nurses and they are present in the clinics monitoring the timing to really get it exactly. Like once the clock starts on that 6 weeks, if you miss that 6 weeks by 30 seconds, that person, that client has to go all the way to North Carolina to get the services
so shocking what's
they need.
Happening to women's
it's shocking.
Reproductive
Yeah.
rights. It's so shocking.
It's shocking. Yeah, it's shocking. So anyway, it was a really fun event, raised a ton of money, and I met some of the best, just the most amazing people who I want to have deeper conversations with.
You think of these doctors who are so brave. There's now the doctor in New York who is being called for extradition to Louisiana because she sent abortion pills to a 17-year-old.
I know.
It's just terrible.
I was happy that Kathy Hochul was like, are you effing joking?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But this doctor can't leave New York State.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's very threatening. It's very, very threatening out there. It's quite dire.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. And it's a sort of war on sex. I mean, the thing I find so weird is that men would support this against women because men like having sex too. The thing that's so extraordinary, I think, for a European or a Canadian looking at the abortion laws in America is how it's all pushed onto women as if somehow women have sex on their own. It's as if they're stuck in the kind of Christian version of the Immaculate Conception where somehow men weren't involved in this.
Oh, yeah. And additionally, when you think about, well, okay, if you don't want unintended pregnancies happening, you would think that the educational system would kind of like bolster people's knowledge of their own bodies and people's knowledge of, you would think that you would have a companion educational sex education system that would support people making choices in their lives that you personally approve of. But in fact, we're just basically, giving kids a Mrs. Potato Head and saying like, find the clitoris. Good luck.
But it's also interesting to me that it's not framed through the idea, which so much is in America, of men's economic issues.
Oh, I know.
So, why isn't it reframed as, do you want to look after a baby for the next 22 years?
I mean,
here's how much it will cost you. This is why you don't want to get your girlfriend pregnant.
I think that there is an overwhelming support of reproductive choice in this country. It's just that the people in charge, we're just electing the wrong people over and over again.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. It's such a strange disconnect, though, from what people actually want.
Yeah.
And as we know, the majority of people who have abortions are mothers who are responsible, who don't want another child to look after because they know the money and the energy that it takes to look after a child well.
Yes, and even if you're not a mother with all of these children to support, like anybody should just have access to it. It's healthcare.
Yeah, of course.
Like it's just healthcare.
It's healthcare.
Oh, you know what? You got to go buy a suede jacket to just.
It's the
deal
only
with
thing
the-
I can do.
deal with the
It's
stress.
my self-soothing habit.
I know.
Is to buy suede right now. I don't understand what I've bought 2 pairs of suede shoes and 2 suede jackets
What the
in the last 10 days.
You've got about 13 days to really rock that suede until it's all over, and then it's boiling hot. So,
Well, it's very strange. And I've got a friend who now just buys bar carts. She said she gets into bed, she opens her computer and she starts searching for bar carts. To be fair, she has several homes, but she now has like 3 bar carts per home.
bar carts.
I know. I don't even have a bar cart. Who needs a bar cart?
You know what? I appreciate it. I loved our conversation with Amy Klobuchar when she talked about how she goes to the Container Store and buys little boxes to soothe herself.
Yep.
But bar carts is kind of next level.
We're back and we're thrilled to be joined by this week's Beast of the Week, Jim Acosta. Jim, once called the White House's favourite reporter by Politico and now called by Trump a major sleazebag. Acosta built his career as a frontline journalist, press room sparring partner, and ultimate MAGA lightning rod. He spent years challenging presidents, fact-checking in real time, and even had his press pass revoked after a now infamous clash with Trump. After close to 20 years at CNN, Acosta walked away last month, leaving his audience with a chilling final message. Don't give in to the lies. It sounds like a popular TV character's last words whispered to a low battery camera in a basement. Trump, of course, took the bait, firing off a Truth Social post calling Acosta one of the worst, most dishonest reporters in journalistic history. So what's Jim Acosta up to now? Let's find out. Jim, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
Great to be with both of you. Thanks for having me.
We're so excited to meet. I'm so excited to meet you. I don't feel like we've ever really met before. We've certainly never had a long conversation. So this is
True.
exciting.
That's all true. So let's do it. Let's have that conversation. Why not?
What do we even call you now? Are you an entrepreneur? Are you still a journalist? Are you an activist? What is when you
I'm
go
not a
independent?
sleazebag. I'll start there.
Are you sure you're not a sleazebag?
I'll wear that name as a badge of honor. He saves his worst nicknames for I feel like the best people. So hey, I'll put myself in that category. No, I'm still a journalist. I consider myself an independent journalist now. I've started up a podcast on Substack. You can also find it on Apple Podcasts and YouTube and so on. And I'm just, listen, I could have taken a few weeks off, grown a beard, traveled to the Antarctic, but I decided to jump right into this. There's so much news going on. I mean, my goodness, when he comes into office and pardons 1,600 rioters and insurrectionists from January 6th, which was an act of aggression against American democracy. I think that was it. The gauntlet was thrown, and you just have to jump right in and keep going. And as we've seen since then, it's been sipping from a fire hose of just unbelievable news day after day.
I was going to say, I don't think it's true that the audience has switched off. I mean, there's a sort of common intelligence at the moment that people are overwhelmed by it. That's not what we're seeing. We're seeing an audience hungry to figure out what on earth is going on right now because it feels like chaos.
It is. It's like a fire hose. And so how are you navigating that? Like you didn't even give yourself any time off. So now you're like currently in transition, doing your own tech. We've all.
Also, why can't we see you? Yeah. Why can't we see you? Jim,
don't know.
We should be able to see you. Can you put your camera on?
It should be on. Is it not on?
No, it's not on. This is the problem.
What
You've gone
on
from being
earth are you
fully
talking about?
starved.
I can see myself.
Well, that's
No,
not good. I think
I'm
you should
on.
be able
You should
to
see me.
We can't see you.
Ask Jesse. Jesse says he can.
Jesse, our
see me?
producer, is now looking in front of the camera as if I'm making up the fact that we can't see you. Oh, okay.
I see myself and I see
I think
you.
you do see us. Well,
I
that's good.
do, yes, and you both look very lovely.
Well, what print do you think Sam's cardigan is while we're waiting for?
It's a
quiz.
leopard print. It's a very sexy leopard print, I think,
Thanks.
is
Says
what
it's
I see
leopard
there.
print. Sam says it's cheetah. I think it's giraffe.
Giraffe.
Yeah, it looks like a giraffe. Oh, there he is. That's
there
better.
you are.
Yo, you've joined us. Much better. Okay.
That's right.
What were we discussing?
All of those animals would be protected by the Wildlife Service if those people weren't laid off by the government.
Oh,
Right?
Well, I
my
think they would be
God.
shot at actually by Don Jr., who's
Pro-
up for
that's very
illegal
possible.
hunting
Absolutely.
trip right in Italy at the moment.
Was
You know-
when you observe this world, because now you're independent, were there times when you were working for CNN, your big network home for a long, long time? Were there times when you were observing the independent media and thinking, there's something there for me? Like that freedom looks very delicious to me.
Yeah. I mean, I can't talk at all about, where I was. It's just not my style.
Of course not.
I love all my friends there. But, the beautiful part about going independent and doing what we're all doing right now is that you can just tell the truth in an unvarnished way and just, let her rip. And, I've always done that. I've tried to always do that throughout my career. But now I'm choosing my own guests. I am writing my own scripts, doing a lot of the work that I enjoy doing as a journalist, as a reporter. And so that part of it is a lot of fun. Occasionally, my dog Duke will jump into the podcast, and because he hasn't had enough attention in the last 5 minutes, and he'll make a cameo appearance, and all of that is fun too. And the audience seems to like it. My sense of it is that right now, and you were talking about this a few moments ago, what the public is really craving is for folks to just tell it like it is. Don't tiptoe around things. Right. Don't tiptoe through the tulips. We just don't have time for that. When Trump comes into office and he basically hands the presidency over to Elon Musk, who proceeds to go through various departments and agencies of the federal government, vacuuming up all sorts of private personal data, and laying off thousands of people who are in charge of, the FAA, people who are in charge of cancer research, protecting our nuclear infrastructure, and so on. And so, there's just no time for bullshit. And, just yesterday, we saw the president of the United States pick up where he left off when he was president the first time around. He accused Ukraine of starting the war in Ukraine, which is an outrageous lie. And so you need people out there calling this stuff out. I think that's what people want, and that's what I'm hoping to do.
Well, so I guess, how do you, are there stories that you feel are already, we're just a few weeks in, and I feel like stories are getting lost and they're getting left behind. The wake is tremendous. So are you seeing it as an opportunity to have stories re-emerge that you think we need to call attention to? Like, what in your mind are we not kind of paying enough attention to writ large?
Yeah, right now, a couple of weeks ago, I was saying, watch out for Ukraine, and now it's here in the forefront. I do think, folks might say this is inside the Beltway navel gazing, this whole controversy over what Trump and his team are doing to the Associated Press. I think it's highly important. When the Associated Press makes an editorial decision to continue to call the Gulf of Mexico, and they're booted out of the Oval Office, they're booted off of Air Force One, I believe it's a test case for what Trump and his team would like to do to other members of the press corps. I think that's a highly important story that you're just not seeing enough on the evening newscasts and elsewhere. And the public needs to understand, we cannot go, I talk about this on my show all the time, the American way of life. You can't have a situation in this country where the White House is going after the press because they refuse to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, which is just one of the top 5 dumb things that he's ever done is renaming the Gulf of Mexico.
I'm not sure it makes the top 5, actually, because there are many other things he's done too. But you've called for other members of the White House press corps to take a stand on this. What do you think would be an effective protest here?
First of all, the Associated Press, has to be considering their legal options at this standpoint. Their First Amendment rights are being violated. Their free press rights are being violated. And I think they have to consider a legal challenge, as I had a legal challenge against the White House when they took my press pass. I think going beyond that, once that challenge is filed with the courts, other members of the press corps, as what happened with my press pass case, should be filing amicus briefs with the court and saying, listen, we support the Associated Press. Now, what the press could do, and I've talked about this to some extent, they could decide that there are certain parts of the president's schedule that they're not going to cover. Perhaps the press doesn't go into the Oval Office for an Oval Office photo opportunity. Perhaps the press doesn't go on a trip with the president. to wherever he's going to deliver his message of the day. And I think if one of the things I try to tell people all the time is one of the most important things in the world to Donald Trump is having those cameras around him. And if those cameras are taken away, he will start to learn a lesson that he can't mess with us. Now, there are folks in my profession who will say, no, we can't do that. How do you cover the president? I think it may be worth exploring as an option if this continues.
He has his own media ecosystem, though. Like, is it so important for him to be a feature player in kind of like traditional media? Like, you think just
I mean, think about how much he covets the cover of Time magazine. Remember when the Time magazine cover came out and Elon Musk was on it? Imagine the turmoil that was going on inside his mind when that came out. It was so much to the point where they had to bring in Elon Musk to stand next to Trump in the Oval Office a day or two later to reassure everybody that Elon Musk wasn't the shadow president or co-president, and yet that's how he appeared during that particular episode. You're absolutely right. He does have his own house organ. He has Fox News. He has conservative media. There's no question about it. But he craves attention. He craves the recognition of the mainstream press, the legacy media, whatever you want to call it. And if that is slowly taken away from him, or if the press takes a stand and says, listen, we're just not going to cover this stuff today unless you let the Associated Press back in, I think that there would be a real soul searching, if they could find one, inside the White House as to whether or not they should be doing this to the Associated Press. I think it's worth a try. I know there are other folks at the press corps who say, you know what, that's going too far. But, listen to the way he was talking about it yesterday. He was just dismissive of the idea that they should be let back in. It's outrageous.
I know a letter has gone, because the Daily Beast signed it alongside the New Yorker and at the Atlantic, to Susie Wiles, Chief of Staff, asking her to reinstate the AP. I don't know if that will have any impact, but I do agree with you that he craves the respectability of the legacy media. Jim, you covered Donald Trump in his first presidency. You got a week in with his second presidency. What is the difference you see?
I think this time around, what we're seeing is perhaps even more disturbing than what we saw the first time around. When he does the blanket pardons for the January 6th rioters and insurrectionists, that was, I think, an assault on our democracy. The way that the Justice Department started to notify FBI agents and other members of the Justice Department that they needed to be identified because of their work on the January 6th case or on the criminal cases pertaining to Donald Trump. I mean, those were acts of intimidation. And now what you're seeing across the federal government with Elon Musk and Doge, I mean, just keep in mind, just the other day, it was just a couple of days ago in a court filing, the White House, the Trump administration said that Elon Musk is not technically the administrator of Doge. And then the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, I believe, was asked yesterday afternoon, well, who's in charge of Doge? And she couldn't say. And these are the people who are going through various agencies. They're over at the IRS right now trying to get access to sensitive taxpayer information in this country. And folks who are overseas might look at all of this and find this to be highly entertaining.
I don't think that people overseas are regarding this with any type of amusement. I think people are really scared. I know that I have tons of family that grew up in Canada, and Canada is not reflecting on this with amusement.
China and Russia might be laughing all the way to the bank.
U.S. adversaries are having a field day with us right now. When Trump goes out there and accuses Ukraine of causing the war in Ukraine, those are Russian talking points.
Right, yeah. Accusing Ukraine of invading itself, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have, now that you're free, now that you are unleashed, are there ways that you reflect upon just kind of the media in general leading up to this election? The coverage of Biden was not adequate. It was insufficient for the last
about his mental state and so on.
Yes, about his decline.
How difficult was it to cover Biden's actual?
I had David Axelrod on. I had David Gergen on. I had Douglas Brinkley came on, the historian. All three of them came on my show and said that that the president should consider not running for re-election or stepping aside. And so there are folks who covered it. I think there's sort of a generalization that, that this wasn't covered a whole lot. I mean, it was right in front of people's eyes. And, I do think to some extent, if you were to do kind of a cocktail napkin political analysis of all of this, I mean, Biden had the opportunity to step aside much sooner than when he did. And that was what he promised to the American people. He said, I'm going to be a bridge to the next generation of Democratic leaders. And he did not uphold that promise. And I think that ended up causing a bit of a chain reaction in the Democratic Party that resulted in Kamala Harris just not having enough time to introduce herself to voters before the November election.
Why was the debate such a shock to people when Biden was unable to finish his sentences?
I was, anchoring at that point, but I think it was right in front of people's eyes. Mm-hmm. I get what you're saying. I and others covered it. It's not like it was uncovered, and it was on all the time on Fox. I mean, getting back to that, they covered it like it was like Watergate.
Is there a question in all of the years that you've covered Trump, is there a question you wish that you had asked him, that you wish that you had had the opportunity to ask him?
I went to one of his events that he had shortly after leaving the presidency. He went down to the border with the governor of Texas, and, they were doing this dog and pony show about some of the portions of the wall that he had built and how Texas was trying to defend the border during the Biden presidency and so on. And I tried to shout a question to Donald Trump and ask him if he was apologetic at all for January 6th. And, I'll just say it right now on your program. I challenge him to a sit-down interview. I would like to sit down with Donald Trump. And I think the thing he needs to be asked more than anything else is whether he has any remorse, any regret for what took place on January 6th. He attempted to overthrow an election in this country. He's shown no remorse for it. He continues to peddle the lie to this day that he somehow won the 2020 election and that this was all stolen from him. I mean, this is one of the problems that we're dealing with right now, guys, is that he is continuing to turn the truth upside down. And in his world, it is black as white. It's through the looking glass. It's Alice in Wonderland stuff. And I think it's highly destructive for this country. And it's all over TikTok. It's all over social media. This propaganda that is pumped out by the right in support of him. And it's highly destructive. And one of the things that I would like to see, and one of the things I'm going to try to do on my show and moving forward, is I would love to see like a NATO alliance for the truth in this country. We need people who are committed to a sane world of reality and truth telling to kind of come together and call these guys out. And it can happen in mainstream media, legacy media, but I think it's going to happen in independent media, and independent media is going to lead the way.
Well, you've also got in Elon Musk, the owner of X, previously known as Twitter, which is also incredibly difficult to overcome because it sets the agenda for media too. I mean, people are still using it.
And and you were getting back to like, what is it like this time around versus last time around? Mm-hmm. Last time around in 2017, Twitter was Twitter. It was not this propaganda platform. And this time around, it is very different. And so, X or whatever you want to call it, is just essentially a propaganda arm of Donald Trump and of the right in this country. And, what I used to say when I covered the White House the first time around is that Fox was essentially state-supported media. If you saw the interview last night with Hannity and Donald Trump and Elon Musk, it was the kind of fawning interview that you would see in autocratic countries when the state media would come in and sit down with the dear leader and ask a slew of questions. It is nothing remotely close to independent media. So going back to the conversation about, well, what about the press and what if they walk out and everything else? He's going to continue to do this state media like performance stuff on places like Fox. And I think that it's really important at this point for folks to kind of hold the line when it comes to, holding their feet to the fire and sticking to the facts.
Why do you think Steve Bannon's rhetoric about Elon Musk is not taking hold just yet?
It's a really good question. I wonder what is going on there. Is it, is it Steve Bannon is sort of jealous that Elon Musk has become the Steve Bannon of the second Trump administration, or Steve Bannon is a populist and he sees, Elon Musk perhaps in the way that tried and true conservatives used to look at tech billionaires in this country, and that is with some suspicion. Whereas Trump has sort of handed over his presidency to this guy, and Steve Bannon's kind of like the OG populist part of the Trump movement, And I think he rightly sees that. I can't believe I'm saying this, that I agree with Steve Bannon on something.
It's hard. That's difficult.
It's sort of like the horseshoe coming together, the ends of the horseshoe coming together with the 3 shirts and everything. But I think he's right about Elon Musk. And there is something sort of strangely not in keeping with the American experience in seeing somebody who looks like a shadow president, looks like a co-president, looks like the presidency's been delegated to him. What the hell's going on? We have, this is not the captain in Tennille.
Yeah, we need you to find out.
So you join a caravan of refugees from CNN. There's Don Lemon, there's Chris Wallace. Don Lemon has now got a big band of followers, as have you. In fact, I think you've probably got more followers now on your own show than you had at CNN. Are you planning? Don said that when he hears from viewers, they want him to sort of dance around his living room. You're in your living room now, or you're in a back bedroom. I don't know where are you, in fact.
The dining room.
Okay, you're
Duke
in your
has already
dining
come over
room
a couple of times. He's tried to make some cameos.
So what are you planning to do that's extra? Are you planning to, do shirtless broadcasts?
Cooking segments.
Yeah, cooking segments.
That's right.
What's going to be your differentiator?
That's a good question. I think we could do stupid pet tricks like the old David Letterman show, perhaps, something like that. Duke only knows a few tricks. Might be a short segment. I'm trying to figure it all out.
Right.
One of the things I have to tell you is that I'm sort of building the plane mid-flight right now.
Right.
I saw that when you were trying to get April Ryan on the show. You just interviewed Michael Cohen and you were like, I think April's coming. I'm just going to press this button. And I could see you looking that the sort of panic of the middle-aged who's been supported by a great tech team and the thing of having to do it oneself.
As my phone just goes off. Yeah. No, I mean, one of the things I've been doing so far with the show, and it's something that I really love doing, is I've been reconnecting with old friends. And April is one of those friends. She and I started working together covering the Obama White House. And as April will tell you, she's been doing this for 28 years. She's, I think, the longest serving Black journalist in White House Correspondents Association history. She's a living legend. And, what the thing that we always come back to is that it's not supposed to be like this. April covered George W. Bush, pretty conservative as it comes. And he just couldn't have been nicer to April Ryan. He was a gentleman. He showed respect to her.
Right.
And I think that's a big part of what I have a problem with what I see right now. We have to get back to respecting one another as human beings. For the Republicans out there who are, I think, struggling and soul searching right now, and they're waking up this morning after hearing Trump accuse the Ukrainians of causing the war and all this, there has to be an internal battle that they're waging right now. And my message is like, hey, there's still time for you to come out and start telling the truth and join the rest of us here and calling this stuff out, because it is all about decency. It is all about respect. And that's one of the lessons I always take away from April is, she has stood there, and you think I've taken some stuff. She has stood there and taken so much stuff from this president, and she just does it with a smile on her face and just with a stiff upper lip and just continues to do the job.
Yeah, there was a really interesting article in the Times this morning, actually, about just that, about about Mormons and trying to restore kind of civil discourse in a conservative worldview. I thought that was pretty interesting.
There are a lot of folks out there, as you were saying, Samantha, not just here in the U.S., but around the world, who are deeply worried about what is going on in this country. And I think they want people to speak from the heart. I think they want people to tell their friends, their neighbors, their relatives, whatever, what's really on their mind. And what we're experiencing right now in this country is highly disturbing. It is highly unusual. It is not in keeping with the American experience or the American way of life. And I think we just have to keep saying that and be unafraid in saying that. And so the thing I get from people is, and it's extremely humbling and extremely moving to me, and sometimes I have a tough time dealing with it, people are grateful. And I'm so touched by that and so moved by that. I'm so thankful for that. Yes, there are folks who don't want to give you the time of day and so on. That's fine. But as I said before, I still have hope. I think those folks are going to come back to our point of view on this, not left or right, but in favor of the truth and the facts and decency in this country.
Jim, we're grateful that you joined us. We wish you luck as you create your own media empire, and we look forward to watching you deliver the news and your interviews shirtless. I think that would be a good differentiator.
Wait a minute. I'm going to get to the gym.
That's your differentiator.
Fantastic.
I'll work on that for next time. Ladies.
Okay, thank you.
Lovely to be with you.
Come back and see us soon.
Will do. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome back. It's time for the download, our deep dive into what's trending at the Daily Beast, and who better to join us than Ben Sherwood, the Daily Beast CEO and the renowned author, including the book The Survivors Club, The Secrets and Science That Could Save Your Life. Ben is going to tell us what the hell is happening with air travel right now and what it takes to survive a plane crash. Welcome, Ben.
Hello.
Obviously, we're not talking about something like Lockerbie. I was watching the CNN documentary on it. It was one of the first stories I ever covered. That story speaks to me. It was such an extraordinary story. But we are talking about the types of air accidents that just happened this week in Toronto.
So many. What is going on?
What the hell's going on, Ben?
We have so many flights coming up. Please make us feel good.
I can make you feel good. And I can also tell you that obviously any loss of life, like the tragedy in Washington, D.C., terrible, painful, and very upsetting. But the fact is that there is just a series of coincidences right now in terms of the most recent accidents. And while people want to blame DEI, or people want to blame FAA, or people want to blame the air traffic system, the simple truth about air travel is that it has never been safer, and that every decade we've seen almost a doubling of air safety. And so the most meaningful statistic that I found in all of my research on aviation safety, when I was working on that book years ago, I went to the FAA's Airplane Crash Survival School in Oklahoma City, where they teach you how to get off a burning jet in 90 seconds. And then I went to the Navy's Aviation Safety and Aviation Training and Survival School in Miramar, the famous Top Gun school in Miramar, California, where they dunk you in a swimming pool in a simulated helicopter and teach you how to get out of a helicopter alive.
And did they make you wear a very sexy sort of leather jacket while you're doing it? How Top Gun is it? Is it really Top Gun?
It was very Top Gun. There was no sexy leather jacket. We wore these big, giant aviation suits to simulate being in a helicopter. But back to the statistic that's interesting. There are lots and lots of statistics about aviation safety. There is safety per billion miles. There's fatalities per 100,000 hours in the air. There are all these different statistics. But there is one statistic that is the most meaningful. It was developed by a statistician at MIT, a guy named Arnold Barnett, a professor at the Sloan School. And it's the most relevant statistic. What is your chance of dying on your next airplane flight? And that statistic today in 2025 is 1 in 25 million. So on your next flight in the United States, the chances of perishing are 1 in 25 million, which means that you could fly statistically every day for the next 60,000 years before you would end up in a fatal crash. That's the same odds as flipping a coin 24 to 25 times in a row and getting heads. It's very safe. Comparing that to the previous decade and the previous decade and the previous decade, it just it keeps getting safer to fly, despite the sense that, there's a plane that flipped upside down in Toronto and there's a plane that went into the Potomac after crashing into a helicopter. These are terrible. But overall, for all of us, the 9.68 billion passengers worldwide, flying is getting safer.
But Ben, if you are, God forbid, one of those people in a plane that flips and you suddenly see flames pouring out of the back of it, what should you do to ensure your chances of survival. I would be hopeless because as a British person, I'd obviously have to be very polite and let everybody else go first. And Sam would just say, I'll just sit here until the plane's emptied.
I don't feel safe until we're come to a complete stop. I actually disagree. I think that Joanna and I are survivors. Don't you? What do you?
What are the key things to do?
In the 90 seconds that you have to get off a plane that may be on fire, what are the key elements?
So there are a few things to know. First thing is that every second counts.
Yeah.
You have to get off and be able to get off the plane in 90 seconds. And so how do you do that? There are a number of things to remember. The first thing is to remember the rule of +3 - 8. The first 3 minutes of a flight and the last 8 minutes of the flight are when almost all of the incidents happen. And 95% of the incidents are survivable. So 95% of the time, if you do the right things, you can get off and get out safely. The first thing to remember, besides fastening your seatbelt and all the basics that are obvious and that they tell you over and over, the most important thing to do is to pick your seat wisely. Now, some people think that it's the front of the plane that's the safest. Other people think it's the back of the plane that's the safest. Other people think it's the wing. Professor Ed Galea of the University of Greenwich in England, who is an expert on fire safety and evacuations, has studied the seating charts of airplane crashes. And he says that the safest seat is not in the front and the back. The safest seat is within 5 rows of any emergency exit.
Okay, that's useful to know.
If you can pick your seat, pick a seat within 5 rows of an emergency exit, front, back, because the chance of being able to get to the exit under duress and fast, your chances within 5 rows are greater than outside of 5 rows. And they've actually just looked at who has been able to get off of planes and who hasn't been able to get off within that 90-second period that's so critical. Why 90 seconds? Because in that period of time, something called a flashover effect can happen. That's where the plane and the fuel and everything turn the cabin of this aluminum cylinder into a very, very hot 2,000-degree burning inferno. And so you've got to get off really fast.
Wow.
Is that what you do? Because, Ben, you come back and forth all the time from LA, where you're based, to the Daily Beast headquarters in New York. And you often send a picture of yourself sitting in your seat. Do you book your ticket 5 rows from an exit?
Always. And I book my seat within 5 rows. And I also, for many years, carried a smoke hood in my carry-on bag.
Really?
And a smoke hood is a little hood that's folded up in a little pack. It's the size a little bit bigger than a cigarette box. And a smoke hood is something that, again, in an emergency, if there were smoke, it might give you another few seconds to be able to navigate the smoke. It's a thing that you put over your head. It's got this breathing thing. It's not the equivalent of like a little mask. It's actually a thing that goes all the way over your head. And so my rules are, and there are a couple other rules that are relevant for you, Jojo, and they're relevant for you, Samantha. When you get on the plane, do not immediately pop a sleeping pill. Do not immediately have a cocktail. Do not immediately put on your headset and dive into that great book that you're reading. The first 3 minutes and the last 8 minutes of the flight, you want to be alert and paying attention and be ready, not with a mask on, not already medicated and out and sleeping on your flight because you want to catch that sleep across the country. You want to be alert and ready so that in the event that you have to move quickly, you can move quickly. And again, when they've studied passenger manifests and when they've studied seating charts, and when they've actually looked at the wreckage of airplanes, they find that people blindfolded, people who have been medicated, those people sometimes don't even get off the plane and don't do anything.
Well, I assure both of you that I'm the only person who listens to the flight attendant when they give the little speech. I watch, I pay attention, I put a smile on my face, and I say, thank you for this performance of these safety measures. And yes, I will read the card.
Well, I've said I would never, ever take a sleeping tablet on a plane because my sister worked for an airline at one point. And Ben, one of the things she said, and I'm interested to see if you corroborate this, is that you should also fly wearing natural fibers, because if you're wearing something that melts on your skin, it can be A, incredibly painful, and B, again, if you've got 3 seconds, if it comes down to 3 seconds, you will last longer if you're wearing cotton and wool than you will if you're wearing acrylic.
Oh boy.
So in my years of research, I never encountered that piece of advice, but I encountered a related piece of advice, which is to wear shoes with laces, not to wear sandals or flip-flops or shoes that can fly off, because if you have to run, you may have to run across glass, you may have to run across a heated wing, you may have to run across burning jet fuel, and you don't want to be barefoot. And so one of the things that has been a rule in our family since we started flying as a family is that everybody wants to wear flip-flops on the plane, or everybody wants to wear, and everybody has to wear shoes with laces.
What about stilettos?
But how can I take my flip-flops off and paint my toenails on the headrest of the person in front of me?
Thank
I'm wearing
God I've never
shoes.
sat next to you on a plane. I would pass out if someone did that.
Oh, God.
What about stilettos? Running in heels, we could do that. We could totally do that.
Always laced shoes are vital. Even I know that.
So sit within 5 rows of an exit, have a smoke hood in your pocket.
Love that.
Wear shoes that are not going to fly off. Can you wear fairly tight-fitting slip-ons? I've got some new sneakers.
So remember, President Trump was knocked out of his shoes in Butler, Pennsylvania, which are slip-on shoes, because those are not tied tightly around his feet. So I would recommend shoes with laces. There's one other thing that's just a really good nugget about airplane safety. 80% of the injuries on airplanes happen because people aren't wearing their seatbelts. And so your chances of actually getting hurt on a plane, as I said, 1 in 25 million. Your chances of getting hurt on the plane from just everyday turbulence are actually significantly higher. And so if you really want to be safe when you're flying, don't worry really about what's going to happen in terms of takeoff or landing. That's going to be okay statistically. But do pay attention to the fact that there is a lot of turbulence and people get banged up. And so keep your seatbelt on. That's actually the simple and most important tip. And the other tip is to relax. There's a bunch of data about airplane safety that people under stress, people who are anxious in the air, that there are many more health complications from the anxiety and the stress that people have about flying than the actual flying itself. And so find some way to relax with a good movie or Netflix, or read The Daily Beast.
My mother-in-law was on a flight and someone had a heart attack right beside her and died on the flight beside her.
Yeah,
Yes.
I have a cousin that died on a plane.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Well. I feel so much safer. This makes total sense, especially the bit about you may have to run across burning tarmac or broken glass and keep shoes on that won't fly off. And your point about Donald Trump is a really good one, that he refused to get off the podium until he got his shoes back.
This is very specific and helpful information, and I will never forget it.
Smokehoods.com.
I wrote this Survivors Club book in 2010. It's 300 pages long. It's got everything about surviving every imaginable situation. And the one fact that endures across 15 years, and whenever I bump into someone who's read the book or someone who heard about the book, the one fact that endures and that people remember is get on the plane, sit within 5 rows, and if you're anywhere on the plane, count the rows to the nearest exits, both the one in front of you and the one behind you. Because in the disorientation of smoke or spinning or a sudden stop, deceleration as they call it, you may actually not know entirely where you are. It may be dark, the lights may go out. So if you've counted the rows to the nearest exit, you can feel your way to 5 rows forward, 6 rows back. And that sort of situational awareness is actually the most important thing of all in any of these situations, is to know where you are and to know what you need to do. And so, Sam, you're right to listen to the briefing. You're right to listen and look at the card. Aviation safety experts say that frequent flyers are actually often the least safe because they aren't paying any attention. And in fact, all planes are different. Exits are different. The way the emergency exit is different. The number of rows, all of that. And so being vigilant actually makes a difference in these situations.
Keep that seatbelt on.
What
Keep
about
that seatbelt
pushing people out of the way? Just get out of my way.
You know what? I'm going to climb over you because you're going to be all tangled up in all your suede jackets.
I am. Oh,
you joke about this, guys, but they call these people, there's a certain kind of person on an airplane called a cork. And that cork is a person who's going to get stuck in the emergency exit. God. And so at the airplane safety school in Oklahoma City, they actually say to you, when you get on a plane, if you're not in the emergency exit, look at the emergency exit row. And if you see someone that you think may get stuck getting out of the emergency exit or may not be a so-called able-bodied person, a person who can handle it in an emergency, to bring it to the attention of the flight attendant and say, I'm worried. And they will move that passenger out of the emergency exit if they make the same judgment about them. Because when they've studied who gets off airplanes in emergencies, there are sometimes people who actually get stuck in the exit, right. Or don't behave properly in those moments and can slow down everybody and can actually be the difference between life and death. So you joke about trying to get out and who's going to be in front of you, but it actually matters.
You know what? That's so interesting because I was in an exit row recently and they came and they gave me the quiz and they were like, do you feel able to fulfill the duties of the exit row person? And then they said the door is 35 pounds. And I went, yes, I think I can do that, but there's no world.
Of course you could do 35
pounds in a panic?
Definitely in a panic. You get all that rush of adrenaline.
I'm not going to be a cork. I'm not going to be a damn cork.
I'm just upset I'm going to have to wear lace-up shoes like sneakers onto the plane.
Yes, you have to.
Oh, it's not a fashion statement, Ben. It's not a fashion statement.
I am
Survive
breathless.
Survive or look good.
I'm breathless.
Which do you prefer? What would that cheetah do? Actually, you could run very fast with that cheetah print.
Very fast.
Very fast. Ben, final quiz for you. What animal do you think Sam's sweater is?
Leopard.
Oh, thank you.
Interesting.
Thank you.
So Sam said it was cheetah. Jim Acosta said it was leopard. You said it was leopard. I say it's giraffe.
Giraffe. I only wear giraffe skins on an airplane, and that will save my life one day.
It's all good. Ben Sherwood, one of the reasons I love working with you is you are a fount of all sorts of incredibly useful, and now it turns out, life-saving information.
Life-saving. I'm never going to forget this, and then I'm going to go and buy smoke hoods for myself and all of my loved ones.
Smokehoods.com. I'm flying on Sunday to LA. I am going to approach it in a whole new way. I've gotten total blasé about it. Totally blasé. Yeah. This is excellent advice, Ben.
And next time, guys, we can talk about which day is the right day to go to the hospital.
Okay, you're totally coming back for that. And of course, because you are really within the company known as Menendez, you can come back and tell us about the Menendez brothers resentencing.
Coming up in March.
We'll see you back here shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Capacious bags and a lace-up sneaker.
Yep. Okay. I think you'd look good in a smoke hood.
I think so, too.
Maybe I should just get a hoodie and turn the hood into a smoke hood.
Just wear it.
That would excite my YouTube critics.
Wear it while you're sleeping on the plane and then gently suffocate as you sleep. Now that I know it's giving giraffe, I have to sell it.
You don't have to. I like it.
I love survival tips. What is the worst day of the week to go to the hospital?
Well, we're going to find out. Well, if you have been, thank you for listening. I think that was a very useful podcast this week.
Very useful.
And if you've been watching on YouTube, keep your comments, especially about what we look like and our outfits and our makeup coming. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, comment, and share it with everyone you know, everyone you don't know, strangers on the subway. Just share it. Be sharing.
Please be sharing, watching on YouTube. You can comment on YouTube. If you'd like to tell Joanna what you think about this week's blazer, you can reach her directly at beastpod@thedailybeast.com. She reads all comments over her morning tea, and then she does a spit take, and it's really cute.
I do, although it's morning coffee, I would say.
Oh, wow.
If you're not a subscriber to The Daily Beast, why not? Duh. It's easy to sign up. Just go to thedailybeast.com.
Yes, and as my muse, my glorious muse, once said, be best, everyone.
I don't think that's what she said. I think she said, that will be $40 million. What she really said was, be beast.
Do it. I'm wearing my beast sweater.
You are wearing a beast sweater, but
I think
what
it's
beast?
giving giraffe. That's so less.
I'm just saying, don't
fun.
go out when Don Jr. is in the hood, because he'll think you're an animal.
If Don Jr. was around, I wouldn't go out at all. Ever. Anyway.